Okay, make sure that you get this quadratic equations worksheet from the sub before we begin. So go ahead and hit pause, go grab the worksheet, and we'll begin. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to write from the graph the zeros, the factored form, and the standard equation. So to do this, remember that our zeros are the same as our x-intercepts. So our x-intercepts are at x equals -2 and x equals 5. From here, we want to write the factored form. Remember, the factored form is our two factors like this. Well, if -2 and 5 are our zeros, when we plug them into our factors, they should equal 0. Since our factor is -2, if I plug -2 into the factor of x plus 2, -2 plus 2 is equal to 0. Same thing here. If I plug in x to right here, what would I need to do to make it 0? Well, I'd have to subtract 5. So this is our factored form. To get the standard form, which is completely backwards of what we have been doing, all we really need to do is, I'm going to zoom in here, all we really need to do is take our factored form, and we're simply going to do the multiplication. So we're going to multiply. So we get x squared, 2x, -5x, -10. When we go to write this, we'll have x squared. We combine these two together, so that's -3x minus 10. So that's our standard form. It's basically multiplied out. Okay. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video, try number 2, and then return. All right, so we're going to try number 2. So our zeros, we have our +2 and +3. So our factored form is x minus 2 and x minus 3. To get our standard form, when we multiply, we should get x squared minus 5x plus 6. Go ahead and continue on to do 3 and 4. Pause the video, and then we'll go over it. Okay, number 3. So our zeros are here and here. So that would be -7 and -1. Our factored form, x plus 7, x plus 1. And our standard form, when I multiply those out, we get this. For number 4, kind of interesting, we really only have 1 0, or we can think of it being 2 zeros, but it's the same, +6, it's the same 0. So your factored form is going to be a square. It's going to be x minus 6 times x minus 6. So if you wrote that out like this, that's okay too. Okay. When we go to multiply that out, remember that a square is the same on both sides. So we have this box. That box is going to give us y equals x squared minus 12x plus 36. All right, number 5, we see that the direction has changed. We now have parabola that faces down. So what is that going to affect? Well, one thing it does not affect is the zeros. Our zeros are still the same, -2 and -4. It also does not change the fact that our factors would be x plus 2 and x plus 4. What it does change is we have a negative out in front. That negative out in front, this lets us know that we're going to have a parabola that faces down, kind of like negative frowny faces. When we go to multiply this out, the first thing that I would do is go ahead and distribute the negative sign to the first factor, not both factors, just the first factor. So when I do that, that gives me -x and -2. This factor is going to stay the same. So that's going to give me -x squared, -2x, -4x, and -8. So my standard form would be -x squared minus 6x minus 8. Go ahead and try the next one since it's also face down. pause the video and then hit play when you're ready. All right, so number 6, we have our zeros. So our zeros are +8, +9. Our factored form is still going to be x minus 8, x minus 9, but we need to add that negative in there because it's facing down. Again, when we go to multiply, I'm going to distribute the negative to just one of the factors. The other factor is going to stay the same. And so we multiply this in, we get negative x squared plus 17x minus 72. So that becomes our answer. Go ahead and do 7 and 8, pause the video, and then we'll check it. Okay, so number 7, we have +2 and x equals -2. Our equation or parabola faces up, so I'm just going to do x minus 2 and x +2. I want to keep that first variable there positive. And when we multiply that out, you end up not having a middle term, so you could write 0x, but really anything times 0 is 0, and then when you add 0, it doesn't change. So that's really the best way to write that. Okay, number 8, we have a 0 at 0, and we have 1 at -5. So x plus 0 and x plus 5. Now really, you don't really need that 0, so you could have written it out like this if you wanted to. When we do this one, we get x squared plus 5x. Yes, you could have a plus 0, but really anything plus 0 is itself, so you don't really need the plus 0. And that is how you determine the zeros and write an equation for factored and standard form from a graph. At this time, you need to go ahead and get the color by number sheet, which is solving quadratics.